Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing INF's Legacy Challenge winning Painter deck. I believe they split the finals in the end, but we're playing the Painter deck because it's more interesting than the Reanimator deck that they split with. So, Painter Servant decks, for those who are unfamiliar. We put Painter Servant into play and we name a colour with it. All the cards in our opponent's library become that colour in addition to other colours. So if we target them with a Grindstone, it will mill them, see that the cards are the same colour, and then repeat this process until our opponent has no library. This also allows us to play Pyroblasts in the main deck because they just become 1 mana counterspell / Vindicate when we have a Painted Servant in play, which is pretty potent. So that's kind of the general gist of the Painted deck, and we have some things to support it. So like Welder and Goblin Engineer allow us to do some shenanigans with our graveyard by searching up the card and then being able to bring it back in, getting some extra value off of cards like Dragon Engine, which we can weld back and forth and just keep drawing cards. We can also jam a Chaos Defiler in the graveyard, bring that back with a Welder, and just absolutely ruin our opponent's day. We have an Ensnaring Bridge, a little bullet to hide behind when we need to. We have a Fable and Mirror Breaker to help us improve our card quality as well as get us some great utility. Copy in Goblin Engineers and giving them like our copy haste is pretty potent. Allows us to go and get something and then immediately weld into it. We've also got a Soulguide Lantern as a one-off that we can fetch off of our Urza Saga or do stuff with our Engineer. As for our fast mana, we've got a lot less fast mana than you used to see in Painted decks. So once upon a time you'd see 6, maybe 8 pieces of fast mana. Now we've only got a couple of Petals and 1 Spirit Guide. We are running the Vexing Baubles here to try and mess with a lot of opposing decks. We do have fast mana in the form of Soul Lands. We've got 4 Ancient Tombs and 1 City of Traitors. A couple of Great Furnace. Having an artifact in the lands that we can then use Welder with is nice. But the only downside of having too many is that it makes you more vulnerable to like meltdown style effects. So this build has only got 2 of them. We have the Urza Sagas and we have a little Sokenzan as well, which can give us some emergency blockers, which is what it's doing most of the time. But sometimes we're beaten down. We do have Urza Saga. Sometimes we can do some beatdowns with that. The other part of this deck, which has sort of become quite commonplace in Painter decks, is Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So this combos with a Phyrexian Devourer. So we put a Phyrexian Devourer in the graveyard, like with a Goblin Engineer, for example. And then we can exile it with Soul Cauldron, and then our creature will have the Phyrexian Devourer's activated ability, but not their static ability. So we can just exile as many cards from our library as it takes to make our creature large enough to win in one shot. So that's another little combo that's tucked away here. But Soul Cauldron is also just good graveyard hate in a format where graveyards are incredibly important. It's half an unlicensed hearse, which is pretty reasonable. And yeah, that's the main deck. Pretty straightforward. Lots of basic lands. You love to see it. Sideboard-wise, we got a Pithing Needle that we can board in that can be found with the Urza Saga as well as the Engineers. We've got another Red Blast. When we're against blue decks, all our Red Blasts look pretty good. We've got some Furies when we need to be erasing some creatures out of here. And if we ever get to copy this with a Fable and Mirror Breaker, that's going to be absolute gas. We've got some Fairy Macabres. We want some 0 mana graveyard interaction that doesn't get hit by our Bauble, so Fairy Macabre is perfect for that. We've got a couple of Abrades, which is a nice catch-all. Well, not all, but catch a lot, really. So artifacts or creatures, so we can get rid of some problem permanents there. And then 4 Magus of the Moon, which obviously has a bit of a non-bo factor with our Urza Saga. But when we board in the Magus of the Moons, they're going to hurt our opponent a lot more than they're going to hurt us. Especially when we're living in an Eldrazi world right now. And yeah, that's the deck. I've played Painter a fair bit. I enjoy playing Painter. There's lots of people out there who are good at Painter and play it nicely too. People like Lightwalker, always check out their channel if you're interested in Painter content. They are a much better Painter player than I am and have a lot of good, interesting builds that you can look at. Alright, remember to like and subscribe to this channel. It does help me out and doesn't cost you anything, so why wouldn't you do it? Alright, let's start jamming INF's, or INF's if you will, Legacy Challenge winning Painter deck. Alright, we're into round 1. We can do turn 1 Mountain, holding up Lightning Bolt, turn 2 City of Traitors, smash down a Fable and get looting. That seems like a pretty good start to what our opponent is on today. Quite often our opponent plays ninjas. Alright, a Tamiyo. I would very much like to Lightning Bolt this. Play into Daze. I think that's better than getting the Bauble down here. You sort of cut the engine out from underneath them before it starts. Like, if they daze this, then it's going to be hard for them to put a ninja in, at least. That's a daze we don't have to worry about for our Fable. Right. We just cleaned it up. That might be because our opponent is waiting to counterspell something a bit scarier. Certainly feels like they had some interaction with the pause when I put the spell on the stack. Right, Ponder from our opponent. No second land. So that means our opponent's got a lot of action over there. So I think I'm going to start doing Urza Saga stuff, actually. rather than the Fable here. So I'm going to play this Vexing Bauble around a daze. Our opponent's list normally doesn't have Wasteland in. I'm getting some extra information from knowing my opponents. So let's just get the Bauble down. This pumps up our construct that we're going to make next turn, as well as stopping any of our opponent's scary counter magic. Our opponent has 6 business spells in hand, so they've got to have something over there. Psychic Frog. That is the sort of thing that makes me want to have a Pyroblast to hand. No Pyroblast. I think we're still just deploying mountains and doing our Urza Saga thing. We are not going to make a construct about this because you can't beat Psychic Frog in combat a lot of the time. It's so free for them to discard cards and just make it bigger, and then we get nothing. Whereas we might be able to clap back and try and win the damage race, even if we're behind on cards. Soporific Springs, this is the bounce spell, isn't it? Right, we'll make ourselves a nice little friend. So we can get one of our Lotus Petals here, I think, and just deploy the Fable of the Mirror Breaker after combat. We definitely don't want to draw a Lotus Petal when we have a Vexing Bauble in play. But this allows us to play the Fable. Our opponent could hard cast a Daze. I think it's worth firing this off though, because we've got a lot of junk in our hand. Alright, we're just in. This will make some treasure tokens when we start attacking as well, which will grow our construct. So we've got a lot of beatdown available. Our opponent's got something they want to do at the end step here. Probably a removal spell of some description. A Murderous Cut. No, we're not blocking our opponent's creature anyway. It is annoying letting them get all those cards. Just filling their hand right up. Psychic Frog is pretty bananas. So our opponent's getting some more cards going. A Tameo. Bringing them yet more cards in the future. Solid. But now we get to burn away some of these bad cards. Is it just Mountain, or are we getting rid of the city? I think we might have more red costs, so I think I'm going to get rid of the city here. Okay. So we can play our land out. Tap this. I will use 1 mana to play the Soul Guide Lancing, so it'll pump our construct. Then I will cast an Engineer, using the mana floating. Dragon Engine, I think. Feels like one of those games. Alright, let's attack. We'll obviously attack with our Shaman. They're going to block it, but we get a treasure which grows our construct. If our opponent had an Orcish Bowmaster type card, and they would have played it before our Fable draws. Okay, so I think we get the Welder here. So the aim of the game here is that we can cycle away a bunch of stuff using this. So we can get rid of our Phyrexian Devourer from hand. They did have the Bowmaster, but didn't want to play it in front of the thing. And they're now paid off for that because of our Welder. Okay, I think I'm going to draw a card off this Lantern in response. Alright, another Fable. Yeah, so the plan is to use a Dragon Engine to put our Devourer into the graveyard. And if we can find a Soul Cauldron, that would be pretty good. Although now drawing extra cards in the face of the Bowmaster doesn't feel the best. Maybe our opponent's just on some sort of blue-black mid-rangey deck here rather than full-on ninjas. Attacking with all of these things. Alright, I will block this. I got another Bowmasters. No, just ninjutsu. Have a Bowmasters as well. Feels like they must have with this Bowmaster attack. Oh, Eureka. Okay, so just getting a whole bunch of triggers here. Yikes. That's a lot. A lot of the damages. So they're drawing 5 cards this turn. 5 extra cards. And 2 of them will hit us. Because each ninja sees each other ninja do stuff. As well as itself. So they get 2 Eureka triggers, 2 Infiltrator triggers. And a frog, of course. Don't forget about the frog. So we need to dodge like Force of Will and stuff. Shoulder's Edict, 2 damage. And a Eureka. So now we're on 3. Which is not the life total I wanted for myself. So we've cleared the Bowmaster. So we might be able to just win here if we can find the Soul Cauldron. So this will flip. Do I want to play out this mountain now? That's fine. Right, so we want this Soul Cauldron. And I think we just give up this treasure. Our opponent is somewhat locked under this bauble. So we are not expecting any interaction from our opponent this turn because of the bauble. If we can find the Soul Cauldron in the top 3 cards, we can win the game. We can find Painter and Grindstone, we can also win. We get the treasure off the Shaman and we have exactly enough to play and deploy both. A Grindstone, that doesn't help here. We can spam a bunch of blockers, that is real. But the frog will jump and kill us. So what is the plan here? I think we have to sack the bauble to try and draw into the Cauldron. Yeah, our opponent's saying that they should have just dumped some extra cards into the Psychic Frog where they pass through the block to damage them. Okay, so we don't have any way to beat what our opponent has on board, so I think we can concede this one. Alright, getting the ninjas on. I would very much like more Red Blast, please. So Fury and Abrade are both pretty good in this matchup. Blowing up stuff along with our Red Blast, which are exceptional in a matchup like this. We do not need Graveyard Hate. Ensnaring Bridge is reasonable, but a lot of their creatures are kind of small a lot of the time, so it's kind of a little bit iffy. Okay, do we need to play this game? What sort of pace do we need to play this game at if we have all this removal? It's probably a lot slower pace is fine. So we could possibly board out some Lotus Petals. It is a bit awkward because we're lowering our artifact count for things like Welder, but Welder doesn't feel great if they're like indexing heavily on Bowmasters. We don't really need the Painters to make our Red Blasts good. So we could like trim on some of this and just try and get our opponent just by removing all their creatures and just play like a red control deck. That seems reasonable enough to me. The other option here is to take out some number of Welders, but I don't know. That never feels like a great idea. Alright, let's try this. Their creatures are blue. We will be able to kill all of the creatures this game. I don't like our one land being an artifact. But this hand is obviously great. Our opponent's not going to play Null Rod on turn 1 at least. Alright, I will keep this. Our hand is very strong. We would like to find a mountain in the first couple of draws. You know, we have a pretty solid route to the old Phyrexian Devourer combo. And 2 very clean answers to all of their threats. Oh yeah, the Red Blast were another thing we're drawing an out to for the Frog as well. An island from our opponent. A Tamiyo. I think I would like to Red Blast this Tamiyo. Unfortunately for our little Goblin Welder, it's not got anything better to do than chip in for 1. If I didn't know my opponent wasn't running Wastelands, I would not have kept this hand. But our opponent is a friend of the channel, and I know their approach to Ninja decks. I actually like their approach without the Wastelands. I think it's much better than the Wasteland builds, actually. Which is weird, but interesting. Because you just get a little bit more space for the business you need. Alright. We have another Red Blast target waiting to get hit. Yeah, we did not find it. Alright, let's try and Pyroblast this Frog. Our hand is good, like I said. And we're not drawing lands, we're drawing good spells. Alright, there is a Force of Will. It's always worth protecting the Frog. It makes its value back very, very quickly. We don't get to attack here. We just have to sit back and let this Frog come in. Push Delta from our opponent. A Yuriko. Oh, I'm not blocking the Frog. Ancient Tomb. That is a handy one, I think. So I'd rather Pyroblast. This is a tricky one, actually. There's definitely options of what to Pyroblast here. I'm going to Pyroblast the Yuriko. Because it feels like their plan is to jump the Frog and then turn it into another ninja and get 4 triggers. And then they draw 4 cards and dome us for like 4 to 8 or something. And then I think we have to just start playing stuff out, even though it's not ideal in terms of our ability to play around days, but we're behind. Alright, bit of attack for 1 then. But if they blow up our Soul Cauldron somehow, then we can at least weld it back in. But we probably want to do that on next turn. So the plan is to Phyrexian Devour our opponent out next turn with the Goblin Engineer. A Murderous Cut, sure. Oof, frogs, they just keep coming. And Abrade never kills a frog because they just discard a couple of cards. Alright, a mountain is certainly a welcome sight. So we could try an Abrade, but like I said, Abrade won't kill these creatures. So I think we are on play Fable around a daze. And then we have the Soul Cauldron to put the counter on the Goblin Shaman if we need to. And then next turn we can play the Goblin Engineer, get the Devourer, and try and combo our opponent. Now, our opponent's seen quite a lot of cards this game, and they're going to see some more. It's going to be tough, but the Psychic Frogs, they can't fly, but they can still attack because we can't afford to block either of these. Oh, that's so miserable, isn't it? Right, they're going in, pitching some cards here. Right, a land into each of them. 4, go to 10. Like, I think our deck is relatively well positioned to beat what our opponent's doing. We bricked on land for a couple of turns, so we did draw good cards. Another frog, you say? I'll take out this welder. Okay, so now we can get a... I don't know if I want this Saga. City of Traitors. Okay, we got Saga anyway. So we can get our Goblin Engineer in. This can go and get the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. And we can welder it in using our Goblin Shaman. Or we could get the Ensnaring Bridge. I like the Ensnaring Bridge. Let's stay alive, shall we? Do this before our opponent untaps. Okay. We're alive. 3 mana. Sink into stupor. Yeah, that's pretty irritating. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they can't grow them. They can't make them all jump. So we've got another shot at this Ensnaring Bridge. So they can make 2 of them jump, and they can hit us for 7. So our Ancient Tomb is very much off here. They probably want to keep 1 frog small for the purposes of beating our Ensnaring Bridge. It is tough out there. Frogs better than goblins. We'll exile a card from their graveyard because we can. It stops our opponent having more delve shenanigans. Do we need to attack with our Goblin Shaman first? We are not going to use the ability on the thing. So we know our opponent runs... Yeah, we know our opponent runs a Orcish Bowmaster. We have to keep something that we know we can play when we have an Ancient Tomb in play. And they have the Force of Will to go with it. And then we are very much dead. Yeah, blue-black stuff. Very efficient. Our opponent's not even doing the grief stuff. But, yeah, this frog. Our deck is relatively well kitted out. If we'd have drawn a second land early, it might have been okay. But we did draw just good spells. So we can't complain too much. I think I would be okay in this matchup most of the time. But I think the blue-black shell with the frogs is so strong that when it runs well, it can basically beat anything. Alright, let's go to round 2. Right, we're on the play. The mana in this hand does not work, so we're going to send it back. The mana in this hand does work, and probably leads us to playing Urza's Saga game, which is a powerful way to play Magic the Gathering. So we go turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Ancient Tomb. We can either play out the Painter, or we can start cranking the tokens, depends what we feel like we need. Right, this makes me want to crank out tokens when I see a Misty Rainforest. So we can just do the combo next turn if we want to, because we have 3 mana in play now. We can play a land, a Simian Spirit Guide. Oh no, we have to get the Grindstone actually, don't we? So we can't do it next turn anyway. Black mana. And is this just going to be like a bug pile? It's going to be a frog, isn't it? Psychic Frog, sure. I think what is going to happen at the end of August when they do the bans is they're going to ban Grief and not ban Psychic Frog. And then we're going to spend like 2 months completely dominated in the meta by Psychic Frog. Intriguing. I think I will make a guy here. And I think I'll get a Vexing Bauble. Shut off some of our opponent's interaction for next turn. Deploy the Grindstone. Grow our friends. Alright, we can double block a Psychic Frog. I could attack now and they could pitch like 3 cards. This will force our opponent to pitch cards. It's embarrassing. We have a 4-4, but we can't attack into their 2 mana 1-2. Alright. Goodbye. Misty Rainforest off their Hedge Maze. So they can pitch another card and then just fly. And that's pretty reasonable. But if they tap out here, we can just combo them out. Like, we are a deck with many, many red blasts. So we should be good into the Psychic Frog decks, in theory. But good card advantage threat plus counter magic and removal is quite a good place to be. Not attacking with a frog. Very cowardly. I'll play our land out first to play around a hardcast Daze here. Can I get a Fable? We can get a Fable. What about an Engineer? Is that worth dazing for you? What would I like here? Quite like the Ensnaring Bridge, just the things of turtle behind. So we attack with 2 4/4s. They can clean one of them up, but it will cost them their hand. I don't think I want to do that. They didn't want to attack into the 2 4/4s, which is strange. Like, just the temptation to pitch a card and then jump the frog seems good. Right, they're pushing the Engineer, which is why I played it out. We're just trying to soak up the removal and see if we can get this Painter down. Yep, so now they're jumping the frog. They're going to come in, deal 1 damage, draw a card, and we need our opponent to tap out and let our Vexing Bauble do the work for us. Alternatively, we find a Red Blast and we can try and push through our Painter. Right, we've got a Brainstorm from our opponent. And a Wasteland. That definitely hampers our plan quite a bit. And another frog. Sure. Again, we can't really attack into the frog. We can attack with the Shaman if we want the treasure. Do I want to flip any of these cards? Not hugely, to be honest. Do I want to just play the Painter here? I can play the Painter and the Welder at the cost of a Goblin Shaman token. These are both 5/5s. They can make these a 5/6. That will cost them their whole hand. Do I think our opponent wants to pitch their whole hand? Do I mind if our opponent pitches their whole hand is the next question. Alright, I think we'll play out the Painter's Servant here. In blue, go to tax. So this will be a 6/6 actually. So they can't pitch enough stuff. They're probably just going to block our Shaman and eat it. Are they worried about us having a red blast and then pitching cards? Alright, there goes the days. It wasn't doing anything anyway. Do I want this welder more than I want this treasure? This treasure gives us the win next turn if they don't kill our painter. Our welder gives us redundancy, and we have a lot of mana in our deck. I think I want the welder here. Because at least if something happens to our painter, we can still get an Ensnaring Bridge. And we have a lot of mana in our deck. Right, our opponent is digging with the Brainstorm. This looks like a Witherbloom command. It's the only thing I can think of that's black and green. Killing our welder and our Grindstone. Bit rude. So I think we're on the beatdown plan now. Our opponent only has 2 cards in hand. I don't think they should have played that land out unless they have a spell they want to cast with it. I think that'd be better as potential frog food. How do I feel about blocking this? So they can make this a 4/5. So we double block. They pitch their things. I don't think they think we're going to block with a painter. Let's see what sort of trade we get here. Right, they're growing the frog to a 3/4. Right, they're trading with the painter. Okay. So our opponent is hellbent now. And we have the most power and we've got a Fable coming in. So maybe we've wiggled our way through this one. Do I play this out? If we draw a Sokenzan, we can just play it out next turn anyway. If we keep this in hand, what does that get us? So if we keep it in hand, we play around potential wasteland. We could crack this Vexing Bauble now that our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand. But this will shrink our constructs. Our opponent made a mistake with the combat damage, they're saying. But all the damage gets applied first. I think we hold the Ancient Tomb so it doesn't get wastelanded if that's what our opponent draws. Next turn we can attack for 12 and force a chump with the Psychic Frog. Alright. We managed to get that one. First things first. Give me that Red Elemental Blast. I don't know how I feel about the Furies here. It doesn't feel great. Because Psychic Frog is not going to die to the Fury. Same with the Abrade. The Pithing Needle can name Wasteland. It can name Psychic Frog. That seems reasonable. Thinking of the things that's in our opponent's deck. They might have... I don't think they're going to have Loan. They're just going to have Witherbloom Command bringing back Wastelands. So I think it's probably just these two. Lightning Bolt is not really playable against frogs. And that's what we've seen. So I think I'm going to swap the frogs out for a bit of better removal. And a Pithing Needle is like a nice little catch for various things they can do. And one of the great things about playing Painter is you always have an emergency button. Because Painter plus Red Blast is just an emergency button that says, okay, we can answer anything we need to. And that is really nice to have. So what is this opener doing? Draw a Soul Land, play a Chaos Defiler at some point. How good do I think Soul Cauldron is? I don't think it's great in this matchup. It's fine. Opponent has a little bit of graveyard synergy. I do like having 2 basics to lead off on. Not big on the Pithing Needle here. And the Defiler. I think we can do better. Right, I would say this is better. We can keep this. We can bin off one of the welders. We can lead off on a welder into either Cauldron or Fable, depending on what we feel like we're playing around or towards. Now, if we don't draw a land, we might not be able to play the Fable around a days. Okay. Let's jam ourselves a welder. Our opponent's cracked fetch. What are they going to do? 2 mana. Is it Psychic Frog time? No. It's Witherbloom Command time. So we lose our welder. Yep. And they're going to get back a fetch land. Okay. So now, am I deploying the Fable, which is something our opponent would really like to counterspell? Or am I deploying... I could just deploy the Saga and the Painter. Or I could deploy the Saga and the Welder. So we have options. It's either Welder plus Saga, Painter Servant, or Cauldron. Or it's the Fable. Those are our 2 options. I think I want the Welder down because the sooner it's down, the sooner it gets to tap and do stuff. I think I want the Saga. Just get some stuff on board. Our opponent didn't have a Wasteland that they got back off of the Witherbloom Command, so maybe they don't have one. And if they Wasteland this, it is annoying, but I would rather they Wasteland that than 2/3 of our mana. Alright, they do have a Wasteland. If they've got a Witherbloom Command here, then we can probably just get absolutely bodied. Black. Blue. Okay, it's Frog. It's bad, but it's not as bad as them just getting the Witherbloom Command going. Okay, so now we have a Fable, or we have a Painter. I think, because we have 2 Fables, I'm just going to jam Fable into Fable. And if one of them resolves, good. Force Pitching Brazen Borrower. Okay. Now, there is an argument to play out one of the artifacts, because then if they counter it, then we can bring it back. But we don't have any way of bringing it back at present. So we need to get some artifacts actually going here. So this Psychic Frog's going to connect once, and that's going to undo the card they pitched to the Force of Will. And things are slowly going to fall apart for us, because our opponent's going to be drawing potentially 2 extra cards a turn now. Alright, let's just keep jamming the old Fables. I really like these bug decks. I think they're very strong. It's kind of like the evolution of bug beans, where do you need beans or you just play frog? Maybe they are still running Beanstalk as well. We haven't seen it yet. It's certainly possible, but I'm just not sure it's necessary when you get to run Tamiyo and Psychic Frog as just steady card advantage streams. Again, you can't block Psychic Frog in combat because it beats everything in combat. Yes, they get to discard a bunch of cards, but it usually doesn't matter because it means they're clearing your stuff and they've still got this card advantage engine in play. So they're going to flip their Tamiyo. They can probably get back the Witherbloom command here, and that's going to be pretty brutal. But they probably should have used a green source. Oh, they're just plussing it. Yes, they... Oh no, they can't regrowth on the first turn, can they? They have to regrowth on the second turn. Fatal push on our poor little goblin. Right, so no shenanigans there, unfortunately. So we need to draw a Phyrexian Devourer right now. And then pitch it to the Fable. Okay, we didn't do that. What are we pitching here? Is this game about Painter? It might have to be. I don't think we need the Mountain. Just going to play out another Fable here. Cauldron and the Painter are both ways that we can kind of backdoor this game from behind, so I think we have to do that. Alright, we just immediately drew the thing again. Cool. If we're trying to backdoor our opponent, we may as well just keep the Tamiyo in check. If they want to get this Witherbloom command, we may as well make it cost them. Let's cast a Fable. So what is the backdoor we want to go for here? Is it the Cauldron or the Painter? The Painter is more likely, but this being in play is very risky. So I think I'm going to get the Cauldron. This can help save us from some removal. Although we don't have any Goblin Welders actually, which is the thing that usually saves from removal from Witherblooms. The next turn we will have enough mana to play and deploy the Painter Servant combo if we draw the Grindstone. So that's kind of one of our outs. Or if we draw the Phyrexian Devourer for turn, we can pitch that to the Fable during our main step when it triggers. So we're trying to find a way into this game. Alright, we're getting 2 cards out of this. Stifle shown from our opponent. Good to know. And they're cracking a clue. Plenty of stuff for the frog to eat and jump up. So they're going to be getting another card here. What do they discard there? An Uro. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? Don't have to mess about with Uro, you just get it straight up. That would explain why they countered our Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Aside from it, you know, being Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Yikes. Yeah, our opponent's deck looks real good. Real good. Now, we do have 5 red... Sorry, we have 6 red blasts in our deck, right? We just got to find them. So they're going to crack in. So our opponent's just playing... We've seen 3 different creatures from our opponent's deck, and all of them draw cards when they attack, basically. That is a lot. That's a lot of nonsense for us to deal with. There's another Tamiyo. Alright, deck. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. Now is the time. What does Goblin Engineer do here? It does get us where we need to be next turn, because we can copy. But is there going to be a next turn? Alright, I'm going to go for trying to win the game. They can just regrow this Fatal Push, though, which is definitely a pain. Let's get the Engineer. So we just get the Grindstone. And I will deploy this Painter. Will I deploy this Painter? Yes, that's still fine. Because if they kill the Painter, that's way better than killing the Engineer, because we can bring the Painter back. Okay. We're not going to just throw our little Goblin Shamans away. One of them has to go under the Uro bus. Okay, so now they're getting back the Fatal Push like we thought they would. Are they going to use that to kill our Painter or our Engineer? The Engineer is the correct one to name here. Right, they're going to jump the Frog. Swing in for a bunch. So the Tamiyo is going to flip and replace the old Tamiyo. So I probably want to use that Fatal Push before we get to untap with Engineer and Reflection. That'd be my guess. Or they could do it in response to the treasure being made. But no, it looks like they're going for it now. They are killing the Painter. That is best case scenario for us, I think. Oh, they got another one. No, they got something bigger. It's a Murderous Cut. Well, that is a disaster. That's like all of our back doors gone. Another Engineer. A Grindstone. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So one mana for this, 1 mana for this. That leaves us with 3 mana. So we can't Grindstone here. I was trying to think, can we Grindstone? There's nothing we can do. Yeah, we just got bodied pretty hard there. I don't think we need additional graveyard hate against the Euro. I think just having the Soul Cauldron and the Saga Lantern is enough. So I think we're just going to go back in. Our opponent's mana base does look quite vulnerable to Magus of the Moon. Am I supposed to be doing that? And if I do, am I boarding out the Urza Sagas? That does leave us with a lot fewer lands. That's 17 lands plus 3 bits of fast mana. That doesn't feel like a lot. Maybe we do we the Pithing Needle for like the Tamiyo and stuff, but we've got better stuff because we've got the Red Blasts. So if we do something like this, I don't think we can board out our weldery stuff. Our Graveyard Hate is useful. Maybe board out one of our painters. Try this. Alright, I'll keep this. So play out Ancient Tomb, play out Lotus Petal, play out Vexing Bauble, and then we'll play out the Engineer. Kind of don't know why we don't just have 3. I guess we need the artifact count. Is probably why we don't have 3 Simian Spirit Guide. So our opponent's got things like Fatal Push can answer this anyway. We already have the Dragon Engine in hand. So what are we looking for here? This is a time where I'd like to have the Bray's Apprentice type card. We could put the Devourer in and just have like a thing we can do. But I think we want something that we can weld back and forwards. So maybe it's like the Soul Guard Lantern. Just try and keep our opponent's graveyard trim as we're going backwards and forwards. That seems a bit weak. I think I'll go for it though. Well, I would always get the Dragon Engine there if we didn't have it in hand. Our opponent does not have exile removal really in Bug. So we should be okay here. They're just going to push our guy anyway. Yeah, sure. Let's make our Dragon Engine. I love that it has a little 9/9 above the 2/2 text box there. It's never going to be a 9/9. But it's nice just to send a message sometimes. Fable is very strong here. See if we can get our opponent to tap something. Okay, so we have to play around a daze. We're always obviously playing out this Ancient Tomb first. I would like to discard that sort of thing, but we may as well play around the spell that is clearly available for our opponent. Alright, we've got the fair beatdown plan going. An Orcish Bowmasters. Not a particularly exciting card, but it will stop us looting. Or rummaging, or whatever you want to call it. Alright, so you might lose a Wasteland, might lose an Ancient Tomb, I don't think so. I probably don't have a second Bowmasters, because you probably attack if you do. Yep, take away one of our lands. No green source from our opponent yet. I think we're on let's attack our opponent and hope for the best plan. An age-old plan. You want to double block our Shaman. You want to chump block and ping. Right, we're going to make ourselves a little Painted Servant. Blue to make sure our blast can hit their black creatures. Another Bowmasters to finish off our guy. It is. Okay. So our opponent's shown they're quite a defensive stance there. But I think getting the extra mana is more important, because if they find a way of killing our guy, then we're just not going to have mana. So just getting as many treasure tokens out while we can is really clutch. Because they've already seen that they're playing Wastelands and Witherbloom Commands, so they might be able to get back the Wasteland. So we just don't want to have no resources to actually cast our spells. Psychic Frog. Okay. So now our 2/2 double striker feels a bit reluctant to attack. Makes the Moon though. That is a very spicy one. If their frog attacks, they'll jump it, and that's really bad news for us. If we attack with our Dragon Engine, it's a 4/4. They can make their Psychic Frog a 4/5, so we can't attack. We can deploy a Magus of the Moon and hope that shuts our opponent down from casting spells. They're basically going to be left with what they've got in play. Now, the issue with that is they have Psychic Frog in play, which is, in my opinion, the best creature in Legacy. So it's going to be a real problem for us. Yes, you could argue Grief is the best creature, but when Psychic Frog's on the board as a creature, that is the scariest thing. In terms of like actually just casting it for its mana cost. Okay, so they're probably just going to go all in and then just jump their frog and bash us a couple of times and we lose the game. Now, if we draw one of our 5 red blasts, then we're okay. But where are the red blasts? Well, like, we've put ourselves in a position where if we draw a red blast, we probably win the game. But we do have to draw it still. Come on, deck. We didn't draw one last game. It's about time. A Goblin Engineer. What does this do for us? We play the Engineer. We copy it. We have no mana left to do anything. So the only out to us here is sacrificing the Vexing Bauble. Yes, you get a ping. You get to kill our Magus of the Moon here. But we have to find the red blast because we're just dead to the frog. This can copy something, but it doesn't matter. We're just dead to the frog anyway. Yeah, basically we're cracking that so we can find the Red Blast. If we can Red Blast this, then we're okay-ish. Yeah, we just don't have anything off that draw. Yeah, again, we're playing against a deck where if we can draw our Red Blast that we have many of, then we're in an okay spot. We just can't seem to find them. Maybe we need to be running more. Maybe 6 isn't enough. Let's have the full 8. All right, let's go to the 3rd round. All right, we have a reasonable one here again, so let's keep it. I think I will lead off on the Welder. There is an argument to lead off on the Soulguide Lantern in case your opponent is doing a really busted graveyard combo deck. But those decks are very bad against the main deck in the meta, the Rescaminator deck, which is a slower graveyard deck. Oh no. Am I being punished for getting my Welder online instead of just playing the Soulguide Lantern? Okay. We have 2 pieces of graveyard hate in our hand. Right, they Thoughtseize themselves to get rid of the Archon. And then we lose. Yeah, so we win this game if we play this Soulguide Lantern. Now I don't think it matters too much. Unless we can somehow get this Chaos Defiler up and running. Not sure how that works though. No point playing that. What do we do the turn after? I guess we can't draw land and Red Blast, which is what we would need to take this out. We have a 1-of Ensnaring Bridge, but we can't draw that and the land at the same time. Yeah, we're just dead. Actually, if we... No, we're not quite dead. We play out this Soulguide Lantern. And this gives us an extra card draw. Yeah, if we had played out the Soulguide Lantern instead of going for our own plan then... But like the thought I was saying before our opponent completely gazumped us was that these sorts of graveyard decks are very, very weak to the deck that is like 50% of the meta in the Rescaminator build. So being able to... Oh, okay, our opponent is just like a turbo version. Okay, so we have to get rid of the Soul Cauldron. Yeah. Yeah, so our opponent is like a turbo Rescaminator because they've got Lotus Petals and they're Thoughtseizing themselves. So it might just be like blue-black Reanimator rather than full-on Rescaminator. Right, that was not one of the 2 cards we needed to draw. We needed a land, and we also needed a other thing. Yeah, so we would have won this game if we played out the Soulguide Lantern, but I wanted to get my game plan up and running first because the main graveyard deck takes a little bit longer to get up and running, and getting the Goblin Welder going gives us a way of potentially bringing back any artifacts like our Soulguide Lantern if it gets griefed out of our hand. So I think it was the right play against the majority of the decks I'm going to play against. Unfortunately, this was not one of them. Alright. I would like 4 Fairy Macabre, please. And the Red Blast is probably pretty important too. I'm not convinced we need Magus of the Moon here. Like, we've seen Lotus Petals. They might have Trolls to cycle. It's not really going to get us anywhere. The Lightning Bolt is weirdly not really looking like a particularly playable Magic card sometimes. Like, it's fine. It's just in this sort of deck, we don't really want the reach that much, so it's not really doing very much for us. I think we have to keep the Defiler just so we have a way of dealing with our opponent's big things if they do end up in play. And then we need to find 3 more cuts. So our opponent has shown us they're blue, which means, you know, they might have scams. We've already seen Lotus Petals. So I do think we want to keep the Vexing Baubles. What are we doing? We're probably just trying to survive and then work out what happens next. Which means we're probably looking at trimming 2 Painters and a Grindstone, and then we can shoot them up as and when we need them. Okay, I will keep this hand with a Soulguide Lantern. Fool me once and all that. So our opponent got Force. They do not have a Force. A Lotus Petal from our opponent. So they are able to present something. Okay, so they got a Dark Ritual here. A Dathi Voidwalker. Okay, that's obviously annoying for our Welder. Thoughtseize targeting us. Like, our cards are bad at this point, so target away. We can weld their Lotus Petals back and forth. Doesn't really accomplish anything, but we can do it. At least we only have a pretty medium threat to worry about, but it does suppress what we're trying to accomplish. Okay. We'll play out the things we have. You know, maybe we're supposed to play the Ancient Tomb there and deploy the Simian Spirit Guide as a threat. But we go to 18 and get 3 power in play, but then our opponent is just... Yeah, I think we need to keep the Spirit Guide in hand. Right, Underground Sea from our opponent. I wonder what they've cut to fit in all these extra cards. Like, are they not running Griefs? Certainly a possibility. Just playing, like, what the meta is going to be. Oh, okay. This is the draw we wanted. We are dead to a counterspell here. Alright. I would very much like to blow up your Dathi Voidwalker. Alright. Now we're cooking. Maybe your opponent isn't playing counterspells. It sounds weird, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're just splashing the blue for something else. Plays Vexing Bauble. No more free spells for you. And we can weld this guy in and out to our heart's content now. Do I want to crack either of our things? Like, we're so far ahead here, I don't think we need to crack anything. Right, let's attack. We'll deploy another layer of Graveyard Hate. Oh, we're paying costs. What would you like to do there, opponent? A Brazen Borrower. I'm going to crack this Vexing Bauble. We don't get to blow anything up with this, but we fizzled their Borrower. More Graveyard Hate. Let's carry on. We can untap Defiler again. A Wasteland. Don't care about that. They would like to reanimate our own guy. That is sad, but we will grow our little Goblin Welder. So Saga Lantern is each opponent's graveyard. So we have to use a Soul Cauldron for that. Let's get the Fable down. Now the average quality of our cards is very high compared to what our opponent's working with, because they're working with, you know, lots of pieces that interact together to do something really busted. Let's get rid of this Dalthy. Grow our Shaman token. Pyroblast. Pyroblast is a good card. I think we're just going to attack. We're not going to use our Soul Cauldron. We want to make sure we have maximum graveyard interaction on our opponent's turn. An opposition agent. Okay. Like, it'll trade with either of these. If they block our Shaman, yeah, okay. So we're going to lose our Welder. But we're going to trade with their guy and hit them for 3. We're sat here with a Pyroblast for anything spooky. They might just be splashing blue for, like, Frog and Borrower. Really doesn't feel like a traditional Rescaminator deck. Like Dark Rituals, Lotus Petals. I don't think they're going to have the full suite of counter magic. But maybe we'll find out. Miss Shouldered. A Grief, you say. Alright. So this is a free spell. Alright, they've just had enough. How much do I value our opponent's ability to do free spells? Do I want to board in some Abrades to kill Dalthys? Because they are quite annoying. Or some Lightning Bolts. How much do I value this Vector? I don't think our opponent is running counter magic. I don't think they are. I think I'd rather just have stuff that gets rid of their things on the board. Alternatively, we could run another Painter. So it's a little easier for us to combo. I don't hate that. Let's try this. Our opponent makes a big guy. If we have enough mana, maybe we can clap back. This has no Graveyard Hate in it. I think we should mulligan this. This is a turn 1 Ensnaring Bridge, which is good against their big stuff. Obviously, pretty bad against a whole bunch of other things they're doing. And we don't have reliable red mana, so I think we have to mulligan that as well. Okay, this has some Graveyard Hate in it. Let's get rid of Painter. Do we get rid of both Painters? I think we do. Keep the Graveyard Hate, the thing that kills Frog, and the generically good card. Alright, we're going to lose the game, I think. Okay, just Dalthy. I can live with that. Thought Seizing. This is problematic. So we're probably losing the Fable or the Soul Cauldron. Yep, Soul Cauldron went away straight away. And we drew a Soul Cauldron. Alright, I will play a Soul Cauldron. I don't think our opponent has the blue count to play Force of Will on their deck. Alright, the Grief is going. So we're going to lose our Fable here. Our opponent can then play that with the Dalthy if they want to. They've decided they do want the Fable. It's a good card. Yep. So in case of Shallow Grave type stuff, I'm going to take out one of their creatures now, even though we're not getting the counter off of it. And there's a Saga. Okay. That's a real Magic the Gathering card that we can deploy. That will eventually give us a lot of power. So we'll strip out like the Dark Ritual and the Thoughtseize moving forward, and then hold the Dalthy stripping until we have a creature in play. But now our opponent gets to loot some spooky things into the bin. Just another Dalthy, and they only looted one card. A Lotus Petal. Hopefully we don't have to use the Pyroblast this turn. Maybe the Pyroblasts aren't that good. But we've seen Frog, we've seen Borrower, and obviously we are still a Painter deck. Our opponent doesn't seem particularly removal heavy. They're like Haymakers and a bit of hand disruption. So we can relatively rely on our Painter to make it around the table. Playing another Dalthy, sure. Because we might be doing racing now, I need to make sure we have these counters for when the time comes, I think now. The fact that this is an artifact land is quite handy. They will be able to start copying their Dalthy Voidwalker next turn. Not a big lover of that. We didn't board in the Pithing Needle, did we? Okay. Not that we would necessarily want a Pithing Needle their Fable. So attacking with the Goblin Shaman becomes awkward for them. They might still do it. Or they might just attack with the Dalthy. Dalthy. Can't block it. Shadow is good. think we need to head towards a painter combo, because we're getting pressured a fair bit here. Our opponent cracks for a lot next turn, but I don't know if we can reliably do that. So we could get the Soul Guide Lantern, attack with a 6/6 that's threatening to be a 7/7, and then next turn can attack with two 7/7s. Or we could get the Grindstone and have it, but we're losing this land. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, which won't be enough to activate Grindstone next turn. So we'll probably get the Soul Guide Lantern, which allows us to take out this Thoughtseize and then have an aggressive play using our Soul Cauldron. The Void Counters only lets us get things from our opponent's Void Zone. So we can't get the things of ours that have been exiled. Alright, what do you want to do about my 6/6? It's a 7/7. And then we've got lethal damage next turn. So they have to have something back for blocks. But they can just crack us for 6 this turn. Anything good in exile they want here? They have a Soul Cauldron of their own. But I don't think that's good. I think they should just bash us for 6 and have us dead next turn. Copying the Shaman token. Intriguing. And they're leaving the Doughty back. What have they got for 3 mana? I need to be worried about here. Nope, not this one. We want to block this one. So the Doughty can get stuff back, but it's Urza, Saga, or Soul Cauldron unless they're about to kill something of ours. That doesn't feel great because they can't block with the Doughty now, so they've given us a shot here. I think they know about this Pyroblast in our hand as well. But they need to have a black creature that they can flash it. So Orcish Bowmasters or Opposition Agent. Am I just countering this now? I think so. Now they're dead on the backswing. Yay! We got a match win on the board. That was an interesting one. I'm glad that we didn't get punished for not playing the Soul Guide Lantern on game 1. We did manage to come back and win the match. Alright, let's go to number 3. We're now on the board. Sorry, number 4. Round 4. Well, this hand makes some Saga constructs and maybe kills our opponent on turn 3, but we don't have red mana, which could be a bit of an issue. Am I a Saga gamer? The Defiler is kind of blank, but if we find any red source, we can just go and get ourselves a Lotus Petal off of this. Alright, I'm going to keep it. Alright, we've got another Saga ticket up. This is where we get Wastelands, and then all of a sudden our entire game plan collapses. And then we draw a mountain, and then we're okay again. Oh, look at that. That is quite clearly not a Wasteland. Love to see it. Could be looking at some sort of Dreadnought deck. I just got the vibes of Dreadnought, which means we have to contend with a dress down at some point. I don't think that means we're not making constructs. I think we still want to make our constructs. End of turn Brainstorm. That could be setting up for like a Stifle Dreadnought. Or it could be that they're a completely different deck. Polluted Delta. That's not giving me the Dreadnought vibes anymore. Let's make a friend. I think we want to go deeper into the friends here. So this is a nice Bowmaster's target right now. If our opponent has a Bowmaster, they'd probably fire it off right now. Alright, we've got some movement over there. There's the Bowmaster. Okay. Wasn't expecting Bowmaster necessarily. You don't see a lot of it main deck, but that's still fine. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So we don't have enough to do it all. Which means we probably make another guy here. Gonna get Grindstone. Deploy in as a Saga. So we have a 2/2, so we can block the Bowmaster if we want to. Just looking for like that mythical red source so we can sit there behind our own red blast. In the first round we had a way of a time with our red blast and it wasn't enough. In this game, in the other games we've okay, that's a little bit annoying. Now we only have a 1/1 as well. Whereas now we're in a bit of trouble. I think this could be the Esper controller that's been popped around. We haven't had the most joy with our red blasts. Right, so probably just on the old construct beatdown again. Your friend and mine. Am I attacking? If they have a Bowmasters, then it's just objectively bad for us. I think we just sit back this turn and then make the construct if our opponent taps out. Or we just make it at the moment we have to make it. So we could get a Lotus Petal and try and jam a Defiler next turn. Not that there's anything particularly exciting to defile. Or we could just try and jam the combo with Red Blast backup. But our opponent is doing a lot of cantripping over there. This is their second Brainstorm. They're going to have, what, 6 cards in hand? That's quite a lot. A Murktide Regent. So we have 2 options here. We can just try and jam the combo, or we can try and fight fairly. I think this is just a really good Red Blast target. I think we should play sensibly. There's definitely an argument to hold this. Alright, so they're playing a Daze here. I will pay for this. That's one less piece of counter magic. Go on, drop a force. Oh, yes. Okay. So we've got 2 bits of counter magic out of our opponent. So now we basically have to just jam. Why do they play a white source? Do I want to block here? I like having some artifacts around. And Ensnaring Bridge. Now that is the safe play here, isn't it? I think the problem with getting the Grindstone if we're not activating it right now is that opens it up to our opponent just blasting us with a prismatic ending. But they could prismatic ending our Ensnaring Bridge. Get Grindstone. I don't feel happy about this. So there's quite clearly some interaction on the other side. I think it's a plow. So I think we're going to try and jam this Ensnaring Bridge. Play around the plow. Because we've got another painter. I think I'll jam a welder as well while I'm at it. This is where they have the white X spell. Yeah, so there's the plow that we knew they had and we played around. So we're trying to dodge prismatic ending. But they can only prismatic ending one thing and they can't kill us with a swing. So if they prismatic ending the bridge to get a swing in, we might be able to just play the painter and win. Alright, a brain surge. Pretty good. Sort of trying to pick our way through this little puzzle. Brain surge is a pretty cool spell. They would like to thought seize us. That doesn't matter because we put the painter servant into the graveyard and we can grindstone and then weld it in. Yeah, alright. We managed to find the way. Our opponent's mana base didn't look like it would enjoy a Mages of the Moon. They didn't look like they would enjoy a red elemental blast coming in. I think we want the Maguses because our opponent is going to be probably has the X white spell. I'm going to take out a couple of Sagas. I'm not convinced on the lightning bolts. I think our opponent is very much on the control spectrum of things. That gives us one more cut. I don't think we need the Soul Guide Lantern. So let's try something like this. I imagine... Yeah, they have to have the white X spell. It's just too good. I'll keep this. We can lead off on Red Elemental Blast. If we find another red source, we can sandbag the Magus as our prize. Or we could just hit this Tamiyo, which is really annoying. Do I want to deal with this Tamiyo? The card advantage it brings is so much in the mid to long term. I think we just have to try and get rid of this. Alright, we've got days out of our opponent. For better or worse, that's one days we don't have to worry about. When we're trying to play 3-drops, that's something. And that's also less mana for our opponent to activate the clues. So the card advantage is going to be a bit slower. And Undercity Sewers. So we know they've got an Underground Sea in hand as well. I think I'm going to play the Fable out first. I think our opponent's fetching basics against us. Okay, that resolved. So I'm inclined to jam or Magus of the Moon down our opponent's throat here. So our opponent's got a lot of cards saved up. And they can certainly draw them even if they're under a Blood Moon. Okay. I'm kind of hoping to find like a Red Blast so we can secure our Magus of the Moon doing its thing. Also, we have Bloomburrow basics in our deck because of the creator account has access to all the Bloomburrow stuff early. Obviously, we're not playing it until it's legal, but we get the basics. Okay. Ensnaring Bridge. Don't want the Ensnaring Bridge right now. I don't think I do. I don't think I want this mountain either. Vexing Bauble is kind of like the thing we were just talking about that we wanted. Let's play a Bauble. Kind of like a Red Blast. Try this with the Fable, because we have to use our mana. We attack with our Shaman token, and then make the Magus. And we're going to Fatal Push our little guy. So we don't get to make the Magus this turn. I wonder if that's going to cost us at all. So we could have made the Magus first and not played out the Fable, just because of the way we had to tap our mana there. I guess we could have tapped just the Mountain, and then attacked. Right, we're losing our Ancient Tomb, but that doesn't matter too much. I quite like our hand, if I'm being perfectly honest. They're going to flash in a Bowmasters. We're definitely not drawing them. So they put the ping onto our little guy, so we can't even draw one card if we wanted to. Do I need to attack with this? Not really. Alright, Magus of the Moon. Shut it all down over there. So now they're going to rifle through all these clues that they've stored. So they're still going to attack with the Tamiyo. So their plan might involve getting enough clues that they can crack 2 clues in a turn to flip the Tamiyo. Which they certainly have, if they can find any other land. How do you feel about my disposable man, opponent? Let's make a Magus. So now we've got double Magus to sit behind, so they can't just have like one piece of removal to get rid of it. And then next turn we can deploy the Dragon Engine. And maybe we can haste it with the Reflection. Right, so they're going to flip the Tamiyo this turn. Which means we probably need to pressure the Tamiyo with what we have. Obviously our deck contains an obscene amount of Red Blasts. So removing this Tamiyo should be relatively elementary once we get things going. Another Magus. I don't think that's where I want to be here. Let's have a Goblin Shaman token, please. Let's have another Goblin Shaman token. Just to attack our opponent's life total down here. So we can make a 2-2 double strike, but it's only going to be a 1-2 double striker. Or we can do pay X, make X tokens. That's probably better. We can do that next turn. So what you do at the end step, after your opponent's end step, you copy a reflection and then it comes in untapped, and you copy a reflection, comes in untapped. And then for basically for X mana you get X 2/2s. Flooded Strand. So if the Tamiyo pops and draws like all the cards, then that's obviously a problem for us. Because they're going to find the lands to break out of this. A mountain. So it's going to go up to 8 next turn, which is the turn it pops. But we're going to make a bunch of guys next turn. It's just like a bad 4th Eolingus. I would like a token of this Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, please. This one would also like a token of Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. So with this one, a Great Furnace. So we could play a Dragon Engine and send a 1-2 instead of the other one. So I think that is slightly better. So this wants to copy this, I think. And this wants to copy this too. And then we go to attacks. So this goes at Tamiyo, this goes at Tamiyo, this goes at Tamiyo, this goes at Tamiyo. Just make sure it's gone. I should have used our basic ones to do it. That's a bit of a mistake there. Will they... So they block both of these and Tamiyo takes 3. Yeah, we tapped the wrong ones here. We tapped the token ones when we weren't supposed to. So we're going to miss out on 2 damage on this Tamiyo. Oh, and there's another one underneath the other ones when they turn sideways that I missed. Okay. Not the cleanest there. But we knock Tamiyo down away from ult, and then we can easily clean it up next turn. Lots of reflection triggers. Alright, our opponent's had enough, because we just get to take out the Tamiyo, and then they got nothing going on. So we got a second match on the board. Wasn't really due to painter stuff, really. It was just playing a nice fair game for the most part here. Although the first one was the painter, wasn't it? Because they had a look at our hands and they realised they couldn't put it anywhere useful. I think that was this game. Alright, so we're 4 rounds in and we're currently 2-2. So we're playing for the positive record. So let's see if we can smash that one down. A single red source on the play is a bit too sketchy for me when our hand isn't 1-drop. So we kept it earlier when we had a bunch of 1-drops, but this time... Alright, this is better. I can keep this. Probably don't need double Painted Servants, so we'll ship one of those. We'll probably begin on a mountain. It's either begin on a mountain or begin on a Soul Cauldron. After we got blasted before by not playing our Graveyard Hate, I'm going to play the Graveyard Hate turn 1. Controversial. Yeah, I think it's correct. Not particularly controversial with this hand because holding up a Pyroblast is a lot worse. Alright. Our opponent does not want to see this. There is a force of will. They're just deciding what they're pitching. A Ponder. Okay, so we might be on the old Rescaminator over there. Probably means they're on an Entomb line as well. Ah, a Nomads. That is a very different beast. Well, you can be assured. Right, I'm going to play this. Oh, I have to play the Mountains so we have the Pyroblast in case they just go for it. I don't want to play the Painter because then we don't get to play around a daze. So I will not tap the Ancient Tomb here. We're obviously under the gun a bit here. Counter target spell if it's blue, please. Say no to Cephalid Illusionist. We can pay around a daze. Alright. Step 1 of not being dead. I see why they were desperate for us not to have a Soul Cauldron. We have another Soul Cauldron available to us. Let's get that Soul Cauldron in. Get that Painter in as well. One named blue. This means if we just draw the right card, we get to win the game next turn. But you know an interesting thing, if we can mill their library for them in the... Oh no, this is creature you control, right? And okay, don't worry, ignore me. Oh, the hardcast Narcomoeba. Hate to see it. It's not what you want over there, is it? Alright, let's get rid of this Illusionist. Let's make our Painted Servant beefy. In the world of 1/1s, the 2/4 is beast. Okay, Red Blast, excellent draw. I believe I am going to attack. We've got a 3/3 back on blocks with our Urza Saga. We've got a Red Blast just chilling that can hit any permanent. So we can counter a Nadu. Yep, our opponent's had enough. We're going to get the Grindstone off of the Urza Saga as well. Okay, this is another matchup where I would like another Red Blast. I think there's definitely an argument for bringing in Pithing Needles here. And once again, the Mages of the Moon looks pretty good against our opponent's deck that's like 3 colours. Kind of try and do a bunch of stuff. I also like the Fairy Macabres here. Do we even want to be a painter deck is the question in this matchup. I like I like all of these cards in this matchup in different ways. Are we just not a painter deck for this game? That was a weird idea that I've not considered. So if we get rid of those, we're still looking for 9 cards. Jeez. There's a lot. The Lightning Bolts are actually good in this matchup. If we're boarding the Megases, we're boarding out at least 2 Sagas. Saga Lantern, very good. Cauldron, very good. Do we need to do like Defiler stuff? I think if we answer the scary things, then everything else will be fine. Do we need the Defiler? How are we going to fit all of these cards? And this is just too many cards. How much are we tutoring our stuff? Can we really just play like something that looks... Okay, we can't board them all out. We'll keep the engineers in because at least they tutor for things. But that means you probably don't want the Defiler. Is this really a thing we can do here? Seems a bit wild, but I like it. I think ramping into a Fury is going to answer the fair plan. The Mages of the Moon is going to do a lot of work. We have Graveyard Hate, so you don't just wombo combo us. Yeah, okay, I'm down. I'm down to try it. That's what we're here to do, an experiment. This is a curious hand that might be able to shut our opponent out pretty early doors. Would like a reliable piece of red mana though. But I think with the amount of tools it has, I'm willing to try it. It might not work out for us, but I'm willing to try it. An Urza Saga. Okay, I would love to find another Lotus Petal here. Haywire Might. Okay, so that's going to answer our Cauldron. But we have 2. Okay, I like having 2 Cauldrons. We could play out the Lotus Petal, but I'm so paranoid about it getting taken out that I kind of want to keep it in hand. 5 cards on our opponent's hand. I'm a little reluctant to try and fire off the Mages of the Moon when I know they can just fetch a basic here. But what else are we doing, right? This is at least going to wasteland them off of their Saga. And at least we found our red mana. What are they going to go for? Blue or white mana? Probably white mana because it answers the Magus with the Plow. A Tropical Island. A Brainstorm. Okay. Do they really not have any basics? Pretty good news. You got a Force there? They do not have a Force. Alright. I feel like I'm in a very, very powerful position this game now. Snow-covered island. We have the Red Blast up. So if the thing they're trying to break out is like a Hydroblast, we can fight over it. I think if they had any actual counter magic right then, they would have fired it off. They must have had the island in hand to not fetch it then. A Chrome Mox. Was not expecting that from our opponent. What's under that? A Narcomoeba. Sure. Let's just get rid of some stuff from our opponent's graveyard while we're here. Another Magus. Am I attacking with this? I think we are. In an emergency, I can discard the Fairy Macabre and then put it under the Cauldron for additional damages. But otherwise, we're gonna sit here and see what happens. A Step Through. The old Wizard cycle. What are they gonna find? Some kind of like Venser style card to bounce our Magus? Just a Nadu. Well, I will Pyroblast that on the stack. You can be sure of that. Just an Narcomoeba. Right, I don't think this Narcomoeba is blocking. I'm going to save it and try and do like a Nadu thing with a Shuko. A Lotus Petal. I'd like a Lotus Petal. I will attack. We need to hold up the Red Blast. And we're also paying around days here. Blue, blue. A Cephalid Illusionist. I don't think I care about this one. I can activate it, which is annoying. But we'll get around that in the end. Exile the Step Through. I would love to find another mana source here. So now our opponent is bashing for 3. As soon as we find another mana source and play the Fable, though, we're miles ahead. Just playing a weird limited game of 1/1s and 2/2s. Ah, we found a land. Excellent. We'll go in. We can loot away the second Cauldron. And maybe the second Magus. There's another Narcomoeba. Just a good old-fashioned Thassa's Oracling. Sure, I think we can blow our opponent out with this Soul Cauldron in combat. Got decent devotion to blue, so they get to look at a few cards here. I did choose one of those cards to keep. Wonder what that says. One of those, keep exiling stuff while we're here. Oh, Pyroblast, love to see that. Simian Spirit Guide, that's not the worst either, is it? Let's attack and see what they do here. What am I doing? I didn't have to do that. There's already a Mages of the Moon in there. Whoops. Yeah, it was just really bad. We just wasted a Fairy card for no reason then. Two in my head about doing that play as like a nice gotcha. That when they blocked, I thought, oh, they haven't seen it. A Shuko. Do I want... We'll let the Cephalid Illusionist trigger first. Like, if they mill a bunch, do we care? Let me just Pyroblast this. Like, they've milled over their basic planes. They get a Narcomoeba, but we have the pressure now. And there's plenty of stuff for our Cauldron to eat here. Alright, our opponents just had enough. And we finished with the 3-2 there. So 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, 1-2, 0-2. So we got absolutely crushed by the Ninja deck. And we lost to the... I think that was the Bug deck. No, the Bug Control deck that just killed all our stuff and made us feel like a chump. Alright, so let's talk about this list. A lot of people reckon that Painter is going to be a very good deck once Grief gets banned. Obviously, you know, it's still doing all right work now. We get main deck Graveyard Hate. We have a clean answer to Frog, which is the main reason people think it'll be good, because it kills Frog and people don't think Frog's going to get banned yet. And having stuff that kills Frog is nice. I'm not convinced Lightning Bolt belongs in this deck anymore. I think since Lightning Bolt doesn't kill Frog, which is like the main thing that you need to actually point something at right now, and also our deck doesn't care that much about reach here. It's not like we're a tempo deck where we can just, you know, I'll bolt you twice in the face and just get the game over with. I don't think the Lightning Bolt is the best choice here. I think we could be maybe running something like Furies, like a couple of those, or just maybe a bit more mana, like some fast mana so we can come out the gates quicker. But I think this slot here isn't necessarily where I'd want to be right now. But generally the deck plays fine. I love Painter. There's lots of tricksy stuff you can do with it. It's really fun. Is an enjoyable and a rewarding deck to play. And it's the sort of thing that you definitely want to see as a part of the Legacy metagame. Like, yeah, it can have the hands where it super wombos you, but look how little fast mana we have now. This isn't like the wombo combo Painter of old. This is sort of easing into the game, sort of like a fair mid-rangey stuff with a couple of like engines, including, you know, you got your Engineer Welder stuff, and you got your Fable the Mirror Breaker ticking along, you got your Urza Saga ticking up, and at some point you can just go bam, I win the game, and we've got multiple ways of doing that. And I think in the current meta, having all this extra Graveyard Hate does make a lot of sense, and the Devourer combo is very strong as well. We didn't get to do it this league, but I've done it before where you like Engineer on turn 1 sometimes with a Mana Dork thing, and then just turn 2 with like a Serene Spirit Guide, Lotus Petal, and just turn 2, drop the Soul Cauldron, attack the Devourer, make your Engineer huge. Like, that is a pretty cool line to have available to you. I think this deck is really cool. I wasn't massively sold on the Bauble. I understand why they're there, and they seem fine. I'm also a little bit worried about the artifact count. There was a couple of times where we didn't have enough artifacts, and I've certainly felt that last time I played Painter on the channel as well, where the builds are drifting away from having too many artifacts. And sometimes you don't get to activate your Welders and your Engineers. And it just makes it slightly easier for your opponent to manage if you don't have as many artifacts. But I understand the pull not to have too many, because if you have too many, all of a sudden the Meltdowns and the Null Rods, they become a lot harsher even. I guess if we're expecting in the new meta to see more white removal to combat the Frog, we'll probably see more of the Wrath of the Skies, which isn't something you get to really dodge at all with this deck, because it's just going to eat your Urza Saga and all your permanents, really. So maybe we could run some more artifacts, because it's not going to make as much of a difference, because a lot of our stuff is going to get hit by it anyway. I did feel like we could have done with some more artifacts here and there. Does that mean playing a third Great Furnace? Perhaps. The downside is obviously, you know, pretty huge if your opponent has easier access to stripping your lands away. But I think having more stuff to make your engine work is really important, and I wouldn't mind having more. I'm not a big fan of the Lightning Bolts at the moment. But I enjoy this deck a lot. I think it has some really interesting stuff to it. I prefer these mono-red builds. I know some people have been messing with red-white builds for Swords to Plowshares at the moment, and I can understand Swords to Plowshares being a good answer against some like big scary monsters that people are cheating into play. But especially moving forward, I think having the Pyroblast is enough, and I kind of wanted more Pyroblasts. We were getting absolutely chewed up by the Frogs. And the Lightning Bolt just doesn't really feel like it's here unless you... I only like Lightning Bolt if you care about the damage at the moment. I think that's how I feel in the Legacy format right now and moving forward. Now, if they ban Frog, then everything is different. And in my personal opinion, I think Frog is a bit too good and should probably be on the way out. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to get a Grief ban. Frog is going to stay. It's going to take over the meta for a couple of months. And then it's going to get banned, or they might let it take over the meta for another couple of months and then it gets banned. I don't know. But I think Frog is a bit too good. Like, if we're not allowed to play with Dreadhorde Arcanist, and rightfully so, I don't think we should be allowed to play with the Frog. I think there's, you know, they're obviously different cards, but I think the power level on them is pretty close. And the thing about the Frog is it just always wins combat. Like, almost all the time wins combat, and it blanks so many removal spells because all your damage and, like, minus X spells don't actually kill it, which is kind of a problem. The fact it's just a 2-mana little guy that completely stonewalls a lot of Eldrazi decks is a bit much. Anyway, enough talking about Frog. Back to Painter. I think this deck is really strong. I like the Ensnaring Bridge in the main. I think that's a great tool to have access to, especially at the moment when people are chinning some big monsters. And Chaos Defiler, it can be a little bit sketchy if it gets like discarded and reanimated, but you're playing one of them, and you're only chewing up when the time is right anyway. So I think this is pretty cool. We didn't quite get to do that much with it. I think we only got it into play once. But I think this is a really cool thing to be doing. I did kind of miss the Brayer's Apprentice, but I guess in that game, that's because we had the Dragon Engine in hand. I think the Dragon Engine is better than Brayer's, but I think I quite like having the option of having a second card advantage. So maybe one of the Lightning Bolts could be that, and another one could be like a Simian Spirit Guide or something, because I did feel that we were missing on red mana a few times. So yeah, deck's great. Obviously, it just won a challenge in the hands of a very good player as well. So a lot to like about this list, and we had so much joy from the Makers of the Moon today as well. This was an absolute all-star for us, and it's nice to have this as a thing that we can pivot into, which sometimes takes people by surprise. But yeah, all right, I think we are done for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did. I love playing Painter, and if you like watching Painter stuff, once again, just a quick shout out to Lightwalker. They make really good Painter's Servant content. Like, their channel is only Painter's Servant, so check them out. Alright, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I will drop a link to Lightwalker's channel as well in the description, so you've got an easy click, so you don't even have to type it in the bar. That's how generous I am. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.